I'm in the holiday spirit. I want to talk about the biggest unwrapped gifts in the HBCU landscape. Oh, yeah, it's locked on HBCU. Play my music.
You are Locked On HBCU, your daily podcast covering HBCU sports. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, family? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On HBCU podcast, your number one daily one-stop shop for everything HBCU athletics, Monday through Friday, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And I, of course, am Darrion Gray, a.k.a. the Mouth of the South, Texas Southern alum and former TSU Herald Sports editor and current contributing writer at USA Today's Saints Wire. Thank you for going on this journey with me, making Locked On HBCU the first listen of your Christmas morning. I appreciate it sincerely. I got my Santa mug. Y'all like that? I do. I'll tell you that. But I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day, every day, especially today. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code Locked On College to get $20 off your first purchase. Look, it's Christmas Day. You probably waiting for the kids to wake up, so you're listening to my voice. I'm gonna get you in and out. I'm not gonna be here long. I'm long-winded, but we're gonna try to keep it quick for Christmas Day. Thank you. It means a lot to me. We're gonna wrap up today's episode by giving out some coal. We're going to give out a little bit of coal in the HBCU world. It won't just be two people. Some of it will be the coal itself and actually describing some of the worst situations that we've seen in HBCU football in 2024. In segment 2, we'll look at the stocking stuffers. I want to keep it relatively positive, at least for the first two, but in the Christmas spirit, let's get some coal too, right? But segment 2, we're going to stock these stuffings with some of these. We're going to stuff these stockings with some of the more positive news that we saw over the last 4 months since the end of August, now into mid-December. But I want to kick it off with the biggest unwrapped gifts. And if you ask me, Division II coaches to the FCS world are the biggest unwrapped gifts in the HBCU landscape. I still think that there's 3 Division II coaches who we could see get a job. I wouldn't be surprised to see Dr. Alvin Parker. I wouldn't be surprised to see Dr. Alvin Parker, Sam Shade, or Teddy Keaton get a job. Probably not all 3, maybe not even 2 of the 3, but possibly one of the 3 at the least. Would not shock me if they got a job this year, because I do believe that Division II head coaches are the biggest unwrapped gifts in the HBCU landscape. When I look at what they could do for the FCS world, because they're already doing it for the Division II HBCUs. Otherwise, we wouldn't be talking about this. Otherwise, these triumvirate of men, these triumvirate of fantastic coaches would not even be in the conversation to move up a subdivision. And you see what they all possess different traits. That's the funniest part about it. But I'm looking at Alvin Parker, the doctor. I'm looking at him as the most likely candidate because he's been at Virginia Union for a while. This is his 6th year. He signed on with the 2018 season, had that skip year in 2020. This is also the only CIA person that we're going to be naming, but I feel like he's been at Virginia Union long enough, and this feels like the appropriate time for him to make his move. Jada Byers is leaving. I feel like I've seen a decent amount of Virginia Union players entering the portal. Reginald Vick is the one that I can think of the most prominently. It just feels like the time. There's nothing that says he has to go anywhere. I know that he loves Union, but this is a hot streak for him. 3 straight playoff appearances. This is a hot streak for him, and he's coming off the best performance of any of those. He has Jada Byers and Andre Braxton. That is a fantastic running back resume, if you're just going to be honest. If you're comparing the all-time leader in yards in the CIAA history, put them together. You got it. This guy is you would assume that he would be able to come in and establish the run immediately. And if you have a fantastic running back on your roster at the current moment, he feels like a hire that you would want to at least look at deeply to maximize your talents. Sam Shade, He's only been at Miles for 3 years. This is kind of Chennis Berry like, only with timeline wise. Let me stop doing that. I don't want to compare everybody to Chennis Berry. But Sam Shade is at Miles, and what he's been able to do is he turned over a program. And I love when you see a coach who year one might not have been great. Year one might not have been fantastic, but then he immediately turned it around. You feel like that's all him, you know? You brought in your guys. You finally established your program. They went 1-9 the first year. I think they went 8. I think they won 7 games. I think they might won 7 games the next year. But year 3 is when it really got together. That's when they really pieced it together because Sam Shade led a fantastic Miles unit to the playoffs, and they won a game this year. So that's one of the things that we are going to talk about when we're talking about stocking stuffers. When we're talking about stocking stuffers, we are going to discuss the Division II playoff race. But I think Sam Shade is a guy who, is it a long line of dominance? No. He has one SIAC championship under his belt, but he's a name that I've heard thrown around, and I really like what he was able to do with that Miles team. And he also had a really good running back if we're talking about keeping it there. One person that is not defined by their running back is Teddy Keaton. And this is the most fascinating to me. This is probably the one that I desire more than anything else. I want to see the Keaton Wright movement on the FCS level. Something about it screams magic. I can't quantify this with numbers. I can't quantify this with a lot of things, but something just feels like magic. If you can get that David Wright, Teddy Keaton at Alabama A&M, at Delaware State, it feels like it, especially if you go into the MEAC, where I feel like there's a lot of question marks at the quarterback position. Norfolk State, who's going to be their coach? I mean, who's going to be their quarterback? Walker Harris, we know he's going to be there. South Carolina State, who's going to be their quarterback? Morgan State. All the other teams you looking at like, okay, well, they ain't really had no quarterback to begin with. But then the Delaware State quarterback, if I'm not mistaken, I think he transferred too. So I think there's I think that there's an opening there for you to really make some noise. And when you look at what Teddy Keaton did with Clark, a program that has no history, I may be calling it from Delaware State. I really may. You get one more year of that right experiment. You get one more year. I would still say Teddy Keaton could be a good coach. I'd still say that Teddy Keaton is somebody to keep an eye on. But if you're trying to get the pairing of the quarterback and coach, he's a junior this year. So next year means he's going to be a senior, a redshirt senior at that. He stepped into college in 21, redshirt in 22, I believe, because he only played 5 games. Then he played again in 2023, 2024. He should have 1 year of eligibility left. But now I want to get into some stocking stuffers. Let's get into some stocking stuffers, some quick hitters, and things that I thought was really cool as we continue with Locked On HBCU. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. And if you download the Game Time app, use the code Locked On College, you'll get $20 off your first purchase. Where would you like to use that purchase? Football. They got a bunch of bowl games going on. They got a bowl game about 20 minutes from the house. If I wanted to go there on Saturday or is it on Friday? I don't know. Maybe I'll look on Game Time to get the specific date. You want to go to a basketball game. They had the Mavericks versus Timberwolves. That was a game that was on Christmas Day. I could have went to that. I was just looking at the variety of different aspects that they have on Game Time, and I was interested in so many different things. I said, okay, cool. In 2025, when I'm trying to do more, when I'm trying to go to comedy shows, when I'm trying to go to theater plays, when I'm trying to go to concerts, I understand that I can go get my tickets on all of those places. And if it's the first time I've been, like it may be your first time, you go ahead and use the code Locked On College to get $20 off your first purchase. And I promise they'll have the lowest prices, and that little dollars off, just an additive. As we continue rolling on today's episode of Locked On HBCU, I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day every day. Making it to segment 2 is a great thing for me. So continue to do it. Thank you very much. Stay in the Christmas spirit. Ho, 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 and all the other good stuff, right? Mugs up. I want to go through some stocking stuffers with you. I want to go over some stocking stuffers with you, and this is going to be some of the best things that have happened over the year. And I want to start off with the biggest headline, which is the Celebration Bowl and back-to-back Celebration Bowl victories for the Southwestern Athletic Conference. There should be and I don't know how much conversation that it is, but there should be some. I've seen a little conversation about the fact that the SWAC is starting to fight back in these games. I think that a competitive back and forth is actually better. I don't want to. I do want a SWAC overhaul. I do want a SWAC tide. I should say. I do want to. I do want to keep it a domination for a little bit, just so we can get even. But then from there, I love the game here, game there, 2 games here, 2 games there. I love that, man. I think that the idea that one conference is just universally better, it maybe it's because my school wasn't a part of the conference that was universally thought of as better. I didn't like it. I probably would love it if the SWAC was the conference that was dominating. So let me not even get up in here and lie to you. I want to tell you the truth. I think that the SWAC winning back to back was great because it actually kills a little bit of conversation. And if the SWAC does go on a dominant stretch similar to the MEAC will just fall back to what they said. Hey, this is what we used to be. We're going to get back to it. And now it's an actual conversation opposed to, man, y'all can't beat us. Y'all never do. We this, that, and the third. I love it personally. Something that a lot of people might not have seen. This is a real stocking stuffer, to be honest. Alabama State just got a new quarterback, and his name's Braylon Edwards. He comes, excuse me, Ragland. Braylon Edwards is somebody I played football with. Braylon Ragland is a Georgia State transfer who he put his practice film up and he was slinging it. It looks good. Guys, listen, if you haven't seen it, try to find him on social media and look at his practice tape. The way he throws the ball makes you excited. The thing is, his practice tape. So we'll see if it's able to translate. But the funny thing about Alabama State is you've always said, man, if they could just have a quarterback, if they could just have a quarterback, that defense is so dominant. They're just missing a quarterback. You wonder how long that those things can be said for. You wonder if there is a cutoff date. Because eventually the defense has to take a step back, right? But then you wonder when that cutoff date happens. Because it's not happening right now. It's not happening right now. Right now, you're seeing a dominant defense. They are continuously rolling over cornerbacks, and I hear they got a couple of more that you should look out for in 2025. Right, like your defense has been your strong suit. Your quarterback in offensive play, and it's really more so the quarterback because I think Holtzclaw, if he can make a speedy recovery, is going to be really good at the running back position next year. The quarterback position is so important, and they got one in Braylon Ragland from how it seems. There should be a competition. I think Kareem Key has earned that. But Braylon Ragland, he looks good on at least that practice film. The way he throws the ball looks good. Once you get into real game situations, you got to deal with pressure. You got to deal with calling the offense, checking the defense, all of those things. It ain't practice no more. So I want to wait. I'm not going to go too crazy, but it looks good, and it will make you excited for the future of the quarterback position at Bama State. The next thing I want to look at is Division II playoffs. Division II playoffs were very successful for our HBCUs. I named 2 HBCU coaches in that first segment that won their conference. You had Dr. Alvin Parker at Virginia Union, and then you also had Sam Shade at Miles College. Both of these men have built phenomenal programs. Both of these men had a really good season, and both of these men made it to the playoffs. Miles went 2 rounds deep. They won 1 game, and then Virginia Union went 3 rounds deep, and they won 2 games. The team that they lost to, it was Valdosta State. So, ain't no shame about it. You end up losing to a team that made it to the championship. But this was a really good year for Division II HBCUs, and I was proud for a couple of reasons. One, if you're looking on the Miles side, the SIAC had made it every year, obviously. You had Benedict College make it the last 2 years, but they didn't win anything. They didn't win a game. They got knocked out after having a bye week. The first time, bye week each time, they lost first round that they played. Technically, Miles and Benedict made it to the same round, but it's way different when you won your first matchup. Benedict didn't win a playoff game in that 2-year stretch. Then on the Union side, man, this is their 3rd year making it in a row for themselves. So one's conference pride, one's school pride. Third year making and third year was the charm. You knock off 2 games that honestly people probably did not expect you to win, especially that first one. With your quarterback going out, but the last thing that I want to highlight as a stocking stuffer is Chinnis Berry. Shout out to the Bulldogs for finding the right coach. You go from Buddy Pugh to Chinnis Berry, and there's natural differences, right? Like there's natural differences in who these guys are as personalities. But one commonality that they share is the ability to get the best out of their team. Chinnis Berry took that team to the to being MEAC champions and making it to the Celebration Bowl. This is no slouch. And honestly, when you look at what he did at Benedict College, you pair it with this, it's difficult to say that this is a fluke. It's difficult to say, I don't know if you can replicate it because we've seen him replicate it pretty much for the entirety of knowing him. We found out about Chinnis Berry in 2022 when he took Benedict College. Well, for most people, I would say that's when he rose to prominence. It was in 2022 when he took Benedict College to the playoffs, undefeated. 2023, undefeated. He changed quarterbacks in that time frame. He's going to have to do the same thing this time. So we'll see. After the first championship year, Eric Phoenix disappears each time. First time was go to Murray State. This one is he ain't got no eligibility. So this will be fascinating. But I think that they got the right coach. They got a great leader. They do. They got a great leader. So you want to go ahead and commend them for that. As you push forward, ain't no more commending. Ain't no more positivity. Let's hand out some coal. I'm ready to give some coal out and put those in your stockings because some of y'all ain't been good. Some of y'all on that naughty list. And quite frankly, I'm looking at you, Delaware State, and also Mississippi Valley State. So let's look at y'all as we continue and wrap up today's episode of Locked On HBCU. It's Christmas time. You listening to me right now. Maybe you already waited too late and the game's going on. You like, dang, I can't put no money down on whatever that first game is that you want to watch, whether that's NBA, whether that's NFL. That's not the case with FanDuel. Even if you're in the middle of the game, you can have live game bets. You can go and put it down in the beginning of the game if you want to, maybe in the third quarter if you wanted to, at halftime. No matter when you check in, you can go ahead and look on FanDuel.com and see what is the live bet going on at the moment. Are we looking at Lamar Jackson passing yards? Are we looking at Patrick Mahomes rushing yards? He's a sneaky runner. Are we looking at Anthony Edwards points? Luka Doncic rebounds. It's a lot of different things. I think the Knicks might play as well. So there's a lot of different aspects for you to look at. And all you have to do is go to FanDuel.com. And if you're new to FanDuel, you'll put down a $5 bet. If that wins, your first $5 bet, if it wins, you get $250 back in bonus bets. We upped it for the holiday season because we want you to recoup on all of the money that you spent to take care of everybody on the holidays. So go ahead and go to FanDuel.com, put down a winning $5 bet, and you get $200, $250 back in bonus bets. As we wrap up today's episode of Locked On HBCU, I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day every day, making it all the way to segment 3. And I thank you 2 times for that. Thank you. Thank you. You see the Christmas sweater pale season. It's been terrible, but I'm still repping. You know why? Because I'm loyal. I'm loyal like that. But I want to give out some coal. And the first piece of coal that I'm giving out is to somebody who wasn't loyal like that. Somebody who did turn their back quite quickly. I thought that coal was very festive, but at the same time, handing out coal was a tad bit too deep for the intro. So I thought that I'd make better use of it at the end of the show. I want to talk about Delaware State and Mississippi Valley State. Listen here. Kendrick Wade, Lee Hole, I wish you all the best. 2 years is not enough time to build a program there. I excuse the firing of Vincent Brown because, like I've said, the Aggies became a laughingstock. They became one of the bigger jokes in the HBCU landscape, and that was so unbecoming of a historic program, of a historic university. I didn't like it. So getting rid of Vincent Brown was different. But Delaware State, Mississippi Valley State, y'all ain't never been on the come up. What are we talking about? And at least not recently. I don't want to say never, but not recently. You don't have a high level success rate. You need to give your coaches time. You got to give your coaches time because if you're going with success in 2 years, you're kind of demanding instant turnaround, not just instant success. See, it's not like your Alabama A&M. See, Alabama A&M, Connell Manning, for everything that we say about him, It wasn't a in the gutter program, in my opinion. It just wasn't good enough. So maybe you have higher expectations. Maybe going to the gutter after 2 years, you looking like, yeah, I know what better looks like. You really don't. You're really not sure. So if after 2 years things don't work and you decide, oh, it's time to run away, no, 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 no. That doesn't work. That does not work for me. Another piece of coal, HBCU to FBS pipeline is killing us. It's killing us, man. I'm hoping that this is a positive for the players. Honestly, I know a lot of people like to speak negatively. And if you've watched me for a long time, if you've been an everydayer for a long time, then you are very aware of how much it irritates me when people speak negative upon our players who go to the FBS ranks. I can't stand it. I don't like it. Now, sometimes I'll do it. I'll be honest, but that's only if I feel like it didn't make much sense. But people will take a great player, let's say Andrew Jones. They'll take him and be like, oh, yeah, he's going to Ole Miss now. I don't know why he did that. He might get lost in the shuffle. Don't tell me, hey, if you want to talk to me about an HBCU player getting lost in the shuffle, don't. Don't do it. I don't want to hear it. I ain't going to lie. You got to change the topic. But anyway, let's go over some of the people. You have Javonnie Gibson from UAPB to Oklahoma. You had Jamari Taylor from North Carolina Central to Virginia. You had Andrew Jones from Grambling to South Carolina, and then he switched his commitment to Ole Miss. Boogie Trotter from Tennessee State to Marshall. You got some real big name players. That's Boogie Trotter, Aeneas Williams Award finalist. Andrew Jones, SWAC co-defensive player of the year. Jamari Taylor was in the running for the MEAC offensive player of the year and easily the best running back in that conference. Javonnie Gibson is a All-American, the best deep threat arguably in all of FCS football this past season. I understand that you are able to replace talent. I'm not even saying you can't replace talent of this magnitude. Sometimes it happens. But until it happens, and we won't know that until we get to the football season, until that happens, you have to be a little bit concerned, right? You have to be a little bit concerned that this is going to be a tad bit too deep of a crater. You have to be a little bit concerned that replacing a Gibson, replacing a Taylor, replacing a Jones, replacing a Trotter ultimately is going to be too tall of a task. It is. Then the last thing I want to say is Bama State's quarterback health. We started off, or I guess we didn't start it off, but that was one of the things in the stocking stuffers is that they got a new quarterback. But the quarterback health from this past season was one of the worst things because I honestly and truly believe this season was set up for you, Alabama State. This is supposed to be truly yours. If you're looking at how everything played out, and I still feel that way if Andrew Body doesn't get hurt. If Andrew Body doesn't get hurt, I think we're having a different conversation about the Hornets. We may even see them take down a Jackson State. This isn't to diminish what it is that anybody else has going on. I'm just telling you, Andrew Body is talented. I think he's a better thrower than we were able to see in that first game. If he played longer, I think we would have been able to see it. We know he has the legs. We know that he's dynamic on that side of the ball, or on that aspect of his game, I should say. Oh my God, that's going to be a huge what if. What if Andrew Body doesn't get hurt? You went all the way down to Kareem Key. You went all the way down to a wide receiver who had to go play football or had to go play quarterback. And he actually played pretty well. You want to talk about a crooked smile, something that you didn't think would look good, but you got to own it. And they ended up rallying around it. And it ended up being a decent picture. It wasn't as great as it would have been if you had a true quarterback, but is what it is, right? To me, Andrew Body leading the Alabama State Hornets would have made Jackson State versus Alabama State a way more fun game. It would have looked different. Jackson State may have done some things differently offensively because I couldn't see them just getting beat bad. But boy, that game would have been something else. Mind you, there was a lot of fiasco and a lot of stuff going on at the beginning of the year, but I think they would have got that sorted out, especially seeing that the second string quarterback never played, or the starter from that game never played again. So it would have had to be in the Andrew Body show. Anywho, I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day every day, especially on Christmas. That's a gift in and of itself. Shout out to you. Shout out to me if you were here on Christmas. Like not shout out to me, but say something to me. But I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day every day. Until the next time that we hear each other, family, take care, stay blessed. I told you I'd get you out of here quick. Peace.